Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen table. Many apologies. I know it's been quite a number of months now since I talked to you all here from the kitchen table. Lots been going on, as you know, in terms of what I myself have been doing, particularly in the World Rally Championship. Before we go on and talk about the World Rally Championship, just a very big thank you to all of the Rally Radio WRC Live fans who were with us for all of those years. If it wasn't for Rally Radio WRC Live, you know, you guys wouldn't be sitting and watching me. You really wouldn't. It was just the most fantastic 13 or 14 years or so of my life. I had so much fun. It was such an honor, such a privilege to be able to talk to the drivers, to report from some of the best rallies, some of the best places in the world. And I have to tell you all that two weeks now, or 2 weeks, two rallies into the new setup, if you like. I really am missing the radio side of things. But don't forget, you can still get an audio feed from the World Rally Championship. You can get the audio feed from All Live, the wonderful All Live product that, thank goodness, I'm involved in now and very much enjoying, I'd have to say. But I'm sure you guys are all missing WRC Radio. I'm certainly missing it, and I know everyone who was involved in making that fantastic product is missing it. But as I said, thank you so much for all your kind messages after, in particular, the Corsican rally, the Tour de Corse. They really were very touching and very much appreciated. So anyway, things move on and we move on, and we're all still here, and we're all still huge fans of rallying, and we're all still, thank goodness, talking about rallying. And yeah, the kitchen table, it hasn't been sold. I haven't moved house. I haven't been kicked out. I've just been trying to sort things out. And now that things are relatively calm again, you, the viewers, the listeners back home, will have the joys, should we call them joys, of my thoughts from the World Rally Championship and from other championships around the world. So let's kick off then with the World Rally Championship, in particular Rally Portugal. Let me have a quick sip of this first. Oh, look at this. Look, I've got two of these mugs. Now, I haven't got a guest with me. I've got no friends. Oregon Trail Rally. This one is mine. It's got Colin the Voice Clark on it. This one, Steve Jones, Rallying UK. If you're watching, mate, this is yours. Brought it back from Mexico for you. Come and get it. We'll put that aside. I'll have a sip of this. Oh, lovely. Thanks, guys, from the Oregon Trail Rally. One of my favourite events I have ever been to, and I'm desperate to get back there, guys. I will be back soon. But let's talk Rally of Portugal. Now, a couple of things I want to talk about. One is the situation with Chris Meeks' crash, which was, well, it was frightening, wasn't it? It really was extremely frightening. The other is the situation in terms of the championship, which really is hotting up now. But let's talk about Chris Meeks' crash first. It was Saturday, was it Saturday or was it Friday? Saturday, wasn't it? Saturday afternoon. And, you know, when those pictures first started to appear on the internet and we hadn't really heard much about the condition of Chris or Paul, it was frightening. And it's fair to say a number of us assumed the worst. You know, I looked at those pictures and thought that the car had been cut open. I thought they'd actually had to extract them from the vehicle. But then my cameraman said to me, he said, no, Colin, you know, we've seen the aerial footage. They were standing next to the car a couple of minutes after the crash. I said, that can't be right. Look at that car. It's had the front cut off it. Well, subsequently, as we all found out, basically the roll cage had given way and the top of the car had come down more or less against Chris's seat. Now, a few things that we have to talk about there. A lot of people saying the roll cage didn't do its job. But I talked to Chris that evening, that very evening, and thank goodness both him and Paul were more or less unscathed by that crash. Why were they unscathed? Well, it's very simple. All of the extra safety initiatives that the FIA, now let's give the FIA enormous credit here, that the FIA have worked tirelessly on over the past few years in terms of improving driver safety. Started really with the hands device, and that we can say certainly contributed to the boys walking away from that crash. More than that, we then went on to roll cage technology. That has improved. Extra padding, that has improved. The seats themselves now are almost little safety cells in their own right. So you have the outside of the car that takes the impact, you've got the crush zones that absorb the impact, you've got the roll cage which deflects the impact, and then you have the seats themselves which protect you. So there are about 4 different levels of protection for driver and co-driver in these cars, 4 or 5 different levels of protection, and each one of them did their job. A lot of you looked at the pictures and said the roll cage didn't do its job. Well, Chris's view on that, and I'd have to say my view on that, is it did do its job. Yes, you can build a roll cage that is tank-like in its strength and its ability not to give way. But what does that do? All it does is it channels the forces of an impact through the car, through the driver and co-driver, and that is lethal. That is lethal, and sadly, we've seen examples of that in the past. What the roll cage has to do, and it's a very fine balance, and the engineers who work on roll cage technology have to tread a very fine line indeed. It has to give protection. It's a roll cage. It has to protect from the roll. It has to protect from the impact. But at the same time, it has to absorb and dissipate energy. So there has to be a little bit of give. Now, there was a lot of give in that roll cage, but it did its job. The seats with those huge new wings, those reinforced wings, did their jobs. The extra foam padding did their jobs. The crush zones in the car, it all helped dissipate the energy. How Chris and Paul walked away from that is quite astonishing. Now, there was another terrible accident at the weekend. Rhiannon Gelsomino and her driver, forgive me, I forget his name, they had a huge crash in their Subaru, but once again, both of them, more or less, the driver I know was taken to hospital, but more or less both of them walked away. And we have to give enormous credit to the FIA for the work that they have done, in particular over the past 4 or 5 years, in improving safety within the cars for our crews, because we are miles ahead of where we were just 4 or 5 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, it's dramatic, but I'm a dramatic sort of person. But I think I could well have been this week mourning the death of 3 of my friends, perhaps 4 competitors. That's how much force went into both of those crashes. And we have to thank the FIA that those boys and girls walked away more or less unscathed from those crashes. So yeah, I can see where the debate over the roll cage and the effectiveness of the roll cage, I can see where it comes from. But you have to listen to the people that know in these circumstances, and the people that know are drivers and co-drivers, the engineers who work on them, and they tell me that it did its job brilliantly. For that, we're thankful. Now, the other thing, it's not often I praise the FIA too much. I'd have to say, listen, I understand what the FIA do. And they do a job. They do a great job in governing our sport. It's just certain departments within the FIA I don't get. I really don't get. But there are some that I soundly understand and get and appreciate. One is the boffins, looking after our boys and girls in the car. The other is Michele Mouton. She is a formidable woman. She really is. And do you know what? This new role that she's been doing now for the past, 2 or 3 years, I think, within the FIA, which is spectator safety on events. She has absolutely jumped into it with both feet, with all of the energy and enthusiasm and dedication that we used to see from her behind the wheel. And she is making a difference. She is making a fantastic difference. Let's go back a couple of rallies. Let's go back to Rally Argentina and that final day somersaulting crash that Kalle Rovanperä had on the Mina Clavero stage, towards the end of the stage. A couple of years ago, don't forget, 2 years ago, after the behavior of the Argentinian fans. And listen, I'm not criticizing you guys in Argentina, because I love it. I love your enthusiasm. But no one can deny that 2-3 years ago, spectator safety was almost non-existent. Spectator control, completely non-existent. Spectators went where they wanted, stood where they wanted, and really took very little responsibility for themselves or the drivers. And we had some very close calls. Hayden Paddon had a huge crash at the start of one of the stages, I think on the Saturday in Argentina a few years ago, which resulted in a yellow card from the FIA. So not just my observation about Argentina, but the FIA's observation, a yellow card in terms of spectator safety. Now, that rally worked tirelessly with the FIA, with Michele Mouton, to put procedures in place to control their fans and spectators and to make sure that the spectacle wasn't any less, but the safety of everyone involved was increased massively. Had Rovanperä's crash happened 2 or 3 years ago, I have absolutely no doubt, none whatsoever, that we'd have seen spectator fatalities. It was towards the end of the stage. It was an accessible point. Yeah, it would have been lined with fans. Yes, there was a car parked there. Yes, there was a tent there. But there were no spectators, apart from the poor woman asleep in the car, and she is the luckiest woman in Argentina. But there were no spectators there as such. And that is down to the work that Ms. Mouton has done over the years. She is ferocious in her dedication to that job, and she takes it so seriously. I see her very regularly passing through at the stage ends, and sometimes there's a happy, cheery smile, a wave, a thumbs up, but other times there is a look of real concern on her face. She takes it personally. The consequences of Michele Mouton and her department getting things wrong are unthinkable. So what she does is she puts every effort into getting it right. And things are improving in terms of spectator safety, and they have to. They absolutely have to. Not just on Rally Argentina. Don't feel I'm picking on you, my Argentinian friends, because I'm not. We've seen it in Portugal in past years, but there is no question. Portugal, my goodness me, what a job they all do there in terms of spectator safety. It is just light years from what we saw 20 odd years ago. Standing at the end of a stage this year, just gone, Michele passed through and she said, "Oh, if only every rally was like Rally Portugal." Her weekend was made easy by the diligence and the dedication of the organisers there to ensuring spectator safety. It is for me one of the biggest issues that we face in our sport, not just at the highest level in world rallying, at every level. We can't have people going out in the morning to go and watch a great day's rallying and not coming home to their families in the evening. That is a threat to the long-term future of our sport, and we've seen big strides forward from the FIA, and in particular from Michele Mouton, in trying to create situations where we can still enjoy our sport, we can still go out, we can still feel the adventure of getting out into the stages, we still get some degree of, if you like, self-decision making, self-determination as to where we go in the stage. There's still that real adventurous sense in going to spectate in rallyings, but it has to be done in a responsible way, and that's the message that I think everyone now is getting, which is fabulous. So those two things, the biggest things for me that have come out of the last couple of rallies. But let's talk now about the state of the championship. Goodness me, isn't it getting interesting? And it's getting interesting because we've got, I think now, three drivers who will be battling hammer and tongs until the end of the year. For me, I cannot make my mind up. Pre-Portugal, I was still convinced that Sébastien Ogier was the man who was going to take the title this year. In no doubt that his task was difficult. But I saw his biggest competitor as Ott Tänak. I hadn't written off at all Thierry Neuville. But for me, Tänak, after the win where did he win? Where were we before Mexico? We were in Argentina, weren't we? The win in Argentina, where he looked good, the car looked magnificent. It was all looking good, and even after the first street stage in Portugal, Tänak looked confident, the car looked remarkably quick. But Thierry Neuville, for me, was the one that there was the biggest question mark over, and I've written it in my column in Motorsport News. I do wonder whether Neuville's best chance of winning the title was last year. Let's talk a little bit about Neuville. Last time that he was presented with the open goal of Sébastien Ogier crashing out early in the rally was Finland last year. It was an open goal. He was there to fill his boots, to score points. Ogier was going to score nothing. He wasn't entering the power stage in Finland last year. But presented with an open goal, he stumbled, sliced his shot. He threatened the corner flag more than he threatened the goal. It was a poor showing in Finland last year. I don't know what happened there. Yes, the car clearly didn't suit the finished stages, but he didn't seem to be in the right mindset. It was almost as if he was a rabbit caught in the headlights. Oh, what do I do? I've got this great opportunity. Wasted. That was the start of the end of his challenge for the title last year. It went from bad to worse after that. When we went to Germany, when we went to Spain, it all just disappeared and it went away from Thierry Neuville. What a different Neuville we saw in Portugal. Ogier off, out. cage, still there for the power stage. Neuville rose to the occasion, and he was magnificent, and the car was magnificent. Faced again with an open goal. What did he do? He buried it in the back of the net. He almost burst the net. 29 points from a potential 30 points. What a performance from Neuville to put himself firmly in the driving seat. What will be interesting, don't forget he led the championship going to Rally Mexico, really struggled opening the road in Mexico. I fear that Sardinia will be more punishing in terms of road opening than Mexico even was. So for me, what we've got to see is an Ogier-like resolve from Neuville in Sardinia, where he doesn't give up. You know, 5th or 6th place is better than 8th or 9th or 10th place for Neuville. So it'll be interesting to see how he copes. He's got a decent lead now, 19 points, his lead in the championship. So let's see what he can do. Tanak, oh dearie me, looks so good, looks so confident, looks so strong. Car looks quick, but does the car look strong? This is the question for me. Toyota have done the most remarkable job. They have produced the most incredible car. It is the fastest car out there. There's no question about that. Is it strong enough? Now we have to look at Latvala, and we have to listen to what Latvala said to work out whether we think there may be some frailties in that car. Latvala hit a rock that just about every other car hit, and his car broke. And what Latvala said was, is this coincidence, or is there something more to it? We will have to analyse after the rally. So I think he was in some ways, he was covering his arse a little bit, but he's also hinting that maybe there's a slight weakness there. I hope there isn't, because I think we might see the most remarkable performance going forward from Tanak. I think Tanak can win 3, maybe 4 of the remaining rallies this year. And if he does, he'll be right there. The other slight niggling doubt I have about Tanak, and really it's not fair because it really is just based on that one incident where he hit those rocks. But I suppose it's something to look out for. Decision making. For me, it's one of the weaknesses of lots of drivers. You know, they very often are just focused 100% on going as fast as they can. Sometimes you have to make decisions that might cost you tenths, that might cost you the odd second. Difficult to make when you're focused, because the cars, the drivers are so evenly matched, focused on the fastest line, the fastest approach, the fastest time. To actually intentionally give up a few seconds, very, very difficult decision, but sometimes it's a decision that has to be made. Now those rocks, monster rocks, in the middle of the road on that stage early on Friday in Portugal, he saw them from a long way away, and he had plenty of room to go around them. And he said, hasn't he? He elected to go over them. And my goodness me, when you see the YouTube footage, it's like an explosion under the car. It's like a Hollywood film scene. It's like one of those car chases where they put those huge ramps under the car to make them jump up in the air. There's a huge flash under the car jumps in the air, and it's game over. It doesn't matter what you build, doesn't matter how strong your sump guard is. Those kind of impacts are more often than not terminal. So my concern, based on that one incident, is it a reasonable concern? Probably not, but it's one to watch out for. Choices, decision making. My view, he made the wrong choice, and he paid a huge price for it. And that he was out, and again, no opportunity to score power stage points. Listen, it is just shaping up to be the most incredible year in the championship. Last year was magnificent. This year, looking to be, I think, even more intriguing, even more exciting, even more captivating than last year was. I'm still going with Ogier, although I do believe that Ogier will have to change his approach in the second half of the year. You know, we haven't seen the Volkswagen-esque Ogier this year. We haven't seen him absolutely chucking everything. It's been measured, because that's how he won it last year. It's been measured. He makes those right decisions. He goes around the rocks. When conditions are tough, he throttles back fractionally. You know, in Argentina, you could argue he was a little too cautious. When that fog came down, he heard about the 2 accidents in the stage, and he was overly cautious. I think he might have, in some ways, he might have to abandon that approach, because the other 2 are in danger of passing him and disappearing into the distance. We might need to see an approach from Sébastien Ogier, and what we know is that Ogier is capable of anything. And you write Ogier off at your peril, because he is the most intelligent, the most experienced. Is he still the quickest driver out there? I'm not convinced. But is he the best driver out there? I would say he still is the best all-round driver. So who is my money on going almost into the second half of the year? Oh, it's a tough one. Well, here's what might decide it. The wingmen. I've talked many times about wingmen, and Ogier, I think, won the championship last year because he had the strongest wingman in Tanak. What we saw on the power stage in Portugal was Hyundai getting two of their wingmen in front of Ogier on the power stage, depriving Ogier potentially of power stage points. What we have to see if Ogier is going to win the championship is Suninen and Evans upping their game. They both had magnificent rallies in Portugal, both of them actually had magnificent rallies. Evans' pace was right there, Suninen was magnificent. But they have to improve a little more. They have to give more support. For M Sport to retain the manufacturer's title, which is a real possibility, but B, to allow Ogier to go on and win the driver's title, because someone other than Ogier is going to have to take points off of Tanak and off of Neuville. Tanak, I think, has been appointed number one driver at that Toyota team now. I did ask Tommy Mäkinen direct about this, and he said, no, that's the decision for the drivers to make themselves. Whoa, make what you want of that answer. But I think he has, because Tanak right now looks like Toyota's best chance of a championship this year. And in Lappi and in Latvala, he has two magnificent wingmen who can take points off the opposition, who can is that the word? Who can give places potentially to Tanak for extra points in the championship. Very, very strong with Tanak at the front, two wingmen either side of him in Lappi and Latvala, strong. But then you've got Neuville. Neuville's got, Mikkelsen for me, jury's still out. But he did look good at times, didn't he, in Portugal? For sure he's capable of supporting Neuville. And that is now, I believe, Mikkelsen's role. I also believe it's the role of Sodal, who is having the season of his life, and Hayden Paddon, to support Neuville in his quest, because perhaps the most pressure this year is on Hyundai to deliver a championship, be that a driver's or a manufacturer's championship. And again, maybe Neuville is their best chance of a championship, and to win that, he needs his three wingmen to do all they can to support him on every single event. So it might not be our top three who actually decide the destination of this year's driver's title. It might be our 7. 3 at Hyundai, 2 at Toyota, 2 at Ford, M Sport. Might be our 7 supporting drivers who decide where this year's championship goes. So as I said, who's my money on? Tanak. I like the look of Tanak right now. I really do. I really like the look of him. He is composed, he is confident, he is fast. He is, I'm struggling to say it. He's got a little bit of cocky arrogance about him, which I like, but in a very, very likeable way. Tanak, for me, he needs a great result in Sardinia. He needs to win Sardinia. If he wins Sardinia, it is game on again. If he doesn't win, we'll come back after Sardinia and I'll tell you then who I think is going to win. But right now, for me, Tanak, yes, he's got a bit of catching up to do, but he is the man who I think has all that's needed to win the title this year. We'll see. We're all experts. We'll all get it wrong. There we go. Guys, thank you very much. I've not drunk much of my Oregon Trail tea here. I'm going to have another wee sip. Thank you very much for joining me again at the kitchen table. Don't forget, you can watch this anytime on YouTube. There will be a podcast as well for you to listen to should you prefer to catch up with my thoughts that way. But thank you very much for rejoining me at the kitchen table. We'll talk to you again very, very soon.